All right, we are live. I'm Father James, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the Barely Protestant YouTube channel. And we have light. Let there be light. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we have a special event tonight. We have a debate. I've done a few debates, but I don't think I've ever hosted one on my channel, at least not recently, not in the past
Mm-hmm.
year or two. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I have a written thing here for this. Thank
Yeah.
you all for watching tonight, and thank you to Scott for joining me in this debate. Scott, how are you doing?
Doing fine, sir. How you doing?
Doing all right. All
All
right.
right.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Scott. Scott Smith. I live in Akron, Ohio, just south of Cleveland, and I I I'll be covering most of these things in my introduction. But I used to be a Christian. I'm not anymore. I'm an atheist, and uh, I well, let's see. Far as I'm currently married. My wife Corinne, she's watching right now, as well. And um, let's see, she has two sons. I have a daughter, and they all live here in Ohio. And uh, anyway, that's pretty much about me right now. And I didn't know if you wanted to. The official introductions. You want to do that next, I guess, right?
Well, I mean that we can. I was figuring that we would do these outside of the
Oh yeah, outside of
opening
okay.
statements.
Oh
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So,
Um, yeah,
anything else you want to
that's
add?
pretty
Yeah.
much. Oh no, that's pretty much me. Like I said, I hope to run a YouTube channel eventually. There's some things in my way right now on that. Sometimes I'm a guest with some other podcasts, and even got some more things coming up soon another another I think mainly a Facebook provider. I think he has a YouTube channel. Anyway, I'm going to be involved with some other projects later on, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I'm Father James. Everyone who, not everyone, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're a regular here, you know who I am. I am the host of this YouTube channel. I'm a priest within the Anglican tradition, and tonight the debate will be over the claim of the existence of God. I am
Mm-hmm.
taking the positive, which means that I have to promote and defend the claim that God exists. And
Mm-hmm.
it is the job of Scott on the negative side to challenge the legitimacy and power of any claims or evidences I make for
Mm-hmm.
this proposition that God exists.
Mm-hmm.
So the debate will consist of the following. We'll have each 5 minute openings. I will go first and then Scott. Then we will have 5 minute rebuttals each, with me going first and then Scott. Then we will have two sets of 10-minute cross examinations each, me first and then Scott. It'll be 10 minutes me, 10 minutes Scott, 10 minutes me, 10 minutes Scott. That's the best part, I think, for the debate, the cross examinations.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll have 5 minute closing remarks each, with Scott first and then me. And then we'll have time for questions afterwards, with super chats taking priority. All right. So we don't have a moderator, unfortunately, because it's the weekend, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I apparently have nothing better to do on the weekend. No. But
Can
no,
think of
I
something.
will keep time, and Scott will as well. Scott, I think, is respectable enough uh, to both of us. We're both respectful enough to care about each other's times and not step on each other's toes or do anything like that.
Right. Right.
So thank you very much for that, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
No.
all right, so I will begin. I will start my 5 minute timer as soon as I begin speaking. And
Mm-hmm.
Scott, if you could, and I'll try to remember to do this myself, whenever the other person is not speaking, just to stop from any, movement of papers or things like that, if you could mute yourself,
Right.
and then I'll mute myself when you are doing your talk.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Make sure I can do that. Uh, I'm, I don't see where I'm able to do that on here.
You should be able to. Let me see on the
Trying to
StreamYard
go
part.
into trying to go into settings here because I
There
certainly
should
don't.
be like a thing right there at the bottom for you. I'll have to look on my computer for it, but if not, that's fine. Don't worry about
Okay,
it.
I'll be quiet. I will not uh, do anything disturbing. Absolutely.
All right. Okay, and I will begin as soon as I begin speaking.
Mhm.
In debating the existence of God, we need to first define what we mean when we say the word God. There are different understandings of how God acts in the world. This debate is not about that. This debate is not about whether the Quran or the Christian scriptures are God's word. This debate is not about whether certain actions claimed by men to have been done by God were in fact done and whether or not they were moral. This debate is on classical theism. We are discussing natural theology rather than special revelation. According to classical theism, we have these points that are true of God. First, God's essence and God's existence are one and the same. This might not sound uh, profound or important, but it might come into the debate as we are going in with it. But this is also known as divine simplicity, that God's essence and his existence are one and the same. Because God's essence and God's existence are one and the same, God is not affected internally by change, nor changes himself in his nature. As well, God is eternal and therefore does not undergo the passage of time in his divine nature. Now, not all of these points will necessarily come up in this debate, but it is important to establish the minimal understanding of what we mean when we are talking about God. So, what I'm defending tonight has to do with these 4 points that God is divinely simple, absolutely metaphysically simple. God is unchanging internally, and God does not change himself in his nature. As well, God is eternal, not is timeless. I will be focusing upon one argument for the existence of God, although there are many, many from which to choose. This will be simplified for the sake of brevity. Every action that happens because something acted upon it. The domino falls because of the previous domino. That domino falls because of the previous domino before that one, etc. In fact, let's stick with that imagery. Every action that has ever happened will be represented by a domino, a long line of dominoes hitting each other, hitting each other, hitting each other. You rewind back to the first domino ever, that first action ever, and you see what you can go from with there. What is the cause of that first domino falling? And there has to be a first domino because an infinite regress is impossible. There are many reasons why an infinite regress is not possible. The first one to give is just simply that if there's an infinite regress, if there's just constantly dominoes going back and back and back and back ad infinitum, then we never could have gotten to the domino that we are at now, the action that is happening right now. All right. So that first domino, why did it fall? What was that first action that caused the rest of the actions that we now see before us today? So there is one answer that's not really an answer, and then there's one other answer that has to be the answer. So the first one that one might object to is, well, that domino itself was caused by another one. Well, then that goes back to the problem of the infinite regress. Therefore, you have to say that the first action is a self-caused action. Now, I lost my spot. The first action must be self-caused because if it is caused by a previous action, we simply have to go back and ask how that action happened. Whatever the first action is, it must be caused by its own self. The closest analogy we have to this would be what we call in mundane experience a willed action. Given that this will logically precedes the creation of all time, space, and matter energy in the physical universe as it precedes the Big Bang, this cause must be without time, space, and without matter energy. If you wish to posit some other logically prior cause of the Big Bang, you're only adding another domino. The pertinent question is, what is the cause of the falling of the first domino? It can't be an infinite regress, as we would never get to this action. It can't be another mundane domino before it, as that pushes back the question one more time. The only answer has to be a self-willed action that causes the first domino to fall. Now, I'm focusing on the will aspect of this, as that is the necessary distinguishing feature between theism and atheism. The atheist might think he agrees with various points on what the first cause must be, but he cannot agree with the idea that the first cause is willed, as that is the necessary difference between these 2 points. And with that, I have about 10 seconds left, and I will yield the rest of my time. And I will start your timer whenever you begin to speak with your opening.
Okay. Appreciate that, Father. And I'll just start off a little bit more really quickly about myself to kind of show why I'm more or less in the position that I am today, or that I hold the position that I do. Just so everyone knows, I mean, as everyone already knows, I guess, I am an atheist. What is an atheist? An atheist is one who does not believe in a God or gods because no evidence for such has been provided. It does not mean that one claims that there are no gods. That is an anti-theist. Now, atheism is not a religion, a belief system, or a positive claim. It is not an effort to disprove the probabilities or possibilities of a god or gods in general. There is no head atheist. There is no creed or manifesto. If someone writes such or writes something like that, they're on their own. So basically, for my not believing in a God is not anything that I'm trying to project onto somebody, not trying to project it onto society, not trying to project it onto churches or religious organizations, actually. It's just that typically the only time I ever get involved in any kind of a discussion with anybody about atheism is when it is presented to me. When someone comes to you and says, do you believe in God? Or you believe in God, don't you? Or I'm sure you believe in God. So that's when the fun begins. Now, I once was a Christian. I was a Christian for over 30 years. I used to be a Bible teacher. I was even a preacher for a while. I used to make my own tracts, salvation tracts, and like I said, it goes as far back as well as around the late 80s. Now, I've been told that since I no longer believe in God, that I wasn't really a Christian to begin with. Now, that's a reference to 1 John 2:19. But nevertheless, I believed in God because I did. And the fact that I no longer believe in God, it gets leveraged against me. But not by everyone. Because after all, what is an apostate? The Bible defines an apostate as being someone who has departed from the faith. Now, how can they depart from a faith that they've never been a part of? Now, when I was much, much younger, I didn't really know much about the Bible, and my family was non-religious. Now, I set out to prove the existence of God later on in life, after I'd been a Christian for quite a while, because mainly during that time period, I didn't really encounter people who were non-believers much. And if I did, I just thought to myself, I would just shake my head, and I thought, my goodness, they just don't know God. I think they just haven't really given God a chance. And if they would just get into the Bible and learn what God's Word has to say, they would realize that God is real and watch how God works in their life. And so during that time, I was always expecting God to do a lot of things in my life. There would be things that would happen, but then those things that happened were not much different than things that happened to other people who didn't express a faith. For example, if somebody prays for a loan to go through or something like that and says, God, if this is your will, you let it happen, and then you get the loan. Well, the loan company probably wanted to loan you the money because that's their business. But what I do is I may take one random situation that worked out for me and attribute it to God and say, God wanted this and God made it happen. But anyway, so I set out to prove, God's existence, to myself. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be armed with the information to tell people about how real God was. Now, it turns out I ended up not finding anything to what I would consider, an average amount of satisfaction to myself. I started running across a lot of things that really bothered me, and I didn't know how to answer them. But nevertheless, I've been an atheist now for almost 4 years. I've argued for theists about that long. I still conduct, my own freelance studies of the works of Bible scholars, things of that nature. And I'm also an avid science and history student as well. And So, nevertheless, that's why I am an atheist, basically, and I'll probably be able to cover even more about that as we talk and go through the debate.
All right. Thank you very much. Right on time. You had about 5 seconds left.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, no problem.
All right. I will go ahead and we have, what is it, 5 minutes, right, for the rebuttals? Let me just check.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes for rebuttals each. All right. Sounds good. And I will begin the clock as soon as I.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for that opening. So it looks like you're going more on a sort of personal incredulity understanding, and if I'm wrong on that, we'll take care of that on your rebuttal and during the cross examination. All right. So one of the things that I think is very important for me is I should talk about this myself and get more personal, I guess you could say, is that when I was in college myself, there was a time where I had an agnostic sort of streak to myself. I wasn't even sure God existed. And in fact, I was so troubled by this question that I switched my degree from, what was it, English at the time, to philosophy.
Okay.
And to make it even better, my professors were almost all atheists. Almost every single one of them was an atheist, except for one. And so I started looking up arguments for and against the existence of God on an academic level, because I was realizing, at least for me, that my personal gripes with the existence of God were not born from an intellectual set of reasonings. It was largely, well, I don't like the way my life is happening right now. I do not like the fact that God has allowed these things to happen, so therefore there cannot be God or a good God kind of thing. And so therefore maybe God doesn't exist. That was the sort of reasoning that I was giving internally at the time. And I realized that, well, I can't do that. I cannot deny the existence of the sun because I get sunburns and I don't like that, you know? So I, for my own search and journey, I decided, well, I need to forego any sort of emotional or personal desires or things like that. I want to find out and know what is true. So this is why I eventually came to the reality that God exists. And very, very similar arguments to the one I just gave right now comes from a long, thousands of years tradition, starting with Aristotle. And although I would say you can find it in scripture itself too, before that, but starting with Aristotle at least, and going through St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine as well, and then being brought out to this day. It's one of the sort of many arguments. It's one of the ones that has most compelled and consistently compelled. And so during our cross-examination, I will go over that a bit more. We have about 2.5 minutes left for my rebuttal. So in the meantime, I'll just say, my intellectual commitments, I was realizing that if I'm going to deny God, I have to deny basically causality. Like I cannot make sense coherently of the world, of the universe, of creation itself without God existing, because I could not even give a logically possible answer as to what the first cause is. Because if the first cause is not willed, which is the very distinguishing factor between atheism and theism, that the first cause is willed or not willed. That's the one thing that has to divide the two, right? I could not give an explanation that I felt was at all sufficient for the existence of all creation. So why is there something rather than nothing? Is the sort of now classical, philosophical question, right? The ultimate philosophical question. Why is there something rather than nothing? And so for me, I ended up being convinced that God exists, that at the very least, the classical theistic understanding of God is true. And as I did my studies further within philosophy and then within theology itself as well, I came to the sort of classical theistic understanding that those 4 points that I gave before, right? Divine simplicity being sort of the fundamental aspect of all that, from which everything else really just sort of follows logically. And so, I am just convinced that God exists because of philosophical arguments intellectual arguments, I think that I can't not I think I cannot make sense of the world outside of God existing, because there is just no way to explain. I've not yet come to an explanation that is anything better than pure magic, or a non-God explanation of creation. I have 20 seconds left, and I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Your Eminence. You mentioned personal incredulity, and I like that. Personal incredulity seems to be one of the typical ingredients when it comes to one either believing in a God, accepting a God, things of that nature. You're absolutely right. You are talking about classical theism. You got it absolutely right. And this is also the classical argument of theism. I'll just start off real quick. If I'm not mistaken, what you are basically presenting is what's known as the cosmological argument. It's fairly straightforward. Whatever begins to exist must have a cause for its existence. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe must have a cause for its existence. Now, this line of reasoning generally continues until reaching the idea of an uncaused cause, or even better yet, a prime mover. And yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's this argument goes as far back, as Aristotle. He was probably one of the first ones. Not absolutely certain on that. Probably one of the first ones to more or less present this argument. There was an Islamic philosopher, Avicenna was his name. I don't know if I got that right or not, but his case was somewhat similar. And of course, St. Thomas Aquinas, as we know, he lived from 1224 to 1225 to 1274 AD, I guess you'd say. And but in modern times, it's Dr. William Lane Craig who is credited with providing probably the most recently updated version of this particular argument, meaning that, first off, did the universe have a cause? Well, lots of cosmologists talk about that on a regular basis. I've read Stephen Hawkins, read Dr. Sean Carroll, PhD at Caltech, who was a part of the commission with the Hadron Super Collider in Geneva, Switzerland, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. A lot of them talk about a cause of the universe. I won't get into all that. But basically what it sounds like what you're telling me is that God has to be the cause. And if so, fine. Provided that you or someone, whoever's posting the argument, has eliminated all other possibilities as to what could have caused the universe. Because in theism, they seem to have we have a problem with the universe having always existed. But now we know that it hasn't always existed exactly the way it is. But what was before that? Well, that's where, in most cases, God comes into the picture. Because there's a little bit of personal incredulity there. Because we don't know. People tell me that God exists outside of time and space. How do they know that? Can they go outside of time and space and look and see there's God? People, many years ago, millennia ago, people thought that God was up in the clouds. Why it mentions the heavens, which is not talking about, heaven, the eternal reward for the Christian. It's talking about the heavens. That's what they refer to them as. And that's basically the English variant word for whatever Hebrew word they used for that. And that's where they thought God was. Along came space travel. And we learned all kinds of things through space travel. Right now, we have people that believe the Earth is flat. Right now, right this minute. We've been to space. We've looked at the Earth. We've looked at it. Yet people still believe, religiously, so to speak, that the Earth is flat. That's a totally different argument. I'm just bringing it up just as a point of what I'm trying to talk about. It was David Hume that argued that while we assume that everything in our lives has a cause, that assumption does not necessarily apply to the universe as a whole. Now, David Hume was a philosopher. He was not an astronomer, an astrophysicist, or a cosmologist. Bertrand Russell argued that if the universe's proposed creator is exempted from needing a creator, then we can say the same for the universe itself. Those are his words. Others have pointed out that even if this cosmological argument has merit, it doesn't tell us anything about any creator. So theists have a big problem with the universe existing eternally in some kind of way, but they do not have a problem with a creator not having a cause, not having a beginning date of creation or anything like that. They don't have a problem with that, and I find that interesting. And I am done.
Thank you. I had to switch this now to do the 10-minute for each one. All right. Actually, would you rather go first, or would you want me to go first for the cross-exam?
Well, that's interesting. I could probably continue with some points. Now, would it just be me talking to you?
Yeah. I have to answer the questions. I cannot ask anything other than a clarifying question.
Right.
I have to answer your questions. You get to interrupt me to move on if you want, things like that. Yeah.
I don't know. Why don't you go first? I think you can
All right.
bring a lot to the table here. So, yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first question. Given that the universe is necessarily complex, would you say, how could you say that it would have to be the first cause itself, given that it is necessarily complex?
Okay, I don't think I understand. What would have to be the first cause? You're asking me?
Yeah, the first cause would have to be simple.
Okay, so you're saying the first cause would have to be simple.
Yes.
Well, how would we know that? How would we know that? I mean, are you?
So I can give this as a clarifying. Yeah. I'll give this as a clarifying. So.
Okay.
Because of the reality of if you have two parts, even metaphysical parts, right, that are different from each other, right, that those two have to be put together. There's a cause for them to have been put together. So what is the cause for that to have been put together? Now, it's not only metaphysical differences, it's physical differences, right, within the universe. So what is the cause for the universe itself, given that it is the way it is? You can argue a brute fact, but I think that's just special pleading. Why is it that it's just the universe? And why is it that not an infinite regress, since it is complex? Going back to that infinite regress thing.
So you're asking me to give you the cause of the universe.
That's the debate tonight, yes.
Yeah, I think that's above my pay grade. Those are the same exact, if you don't, those are the same exact questions that cosmologists and astrophysicists have been asking for a long time and have been working in the field to discover. I'm probably the last person on earth you would want to ask what those PhD level scientific areas. I don't know the cause of the universe. Now, typically, what happens is when I am asked that by a lot of people, the typical rhetorical response. I'm not saying that you're being rhetorical. I'm saying the typical rhetorical response is that that since I can't answer that, or since science, let's just say science can't answer that at this particular moment in time, then that means that this is the answer. It has to be. There's no other thing it could possibly be. And that's not true in and of itself, because...
Well, again, I haven't brought up the scriptures at all, other than to say that I'm not bringing up the scriptures. So, well, moving on with this really quickly, because I think there's an important thing to point out. So you keep pointing to science, which only goes as far back as physics allows, right? We're talking about metaphysics, because there is, according to all of the science that we know, there is a beginning point for the current physics that we have today. Prior to Planck time within the Big Bang, physics breaks down as we know it. So whatever it is that is the cause of the Big Bang has to be literally metaphysical. It has to be beyond our physics. So why are you looking at science rather than philosophy? Because that would be the actual appropriate discipline for this question and answer.
That is your assertion. yes, physics does break down prior to Planck time, according to what cosmologists, astrophysicists have determined. Now, you're saying it has to be metaphysical. When I've looked into metaphysics, I can't find anybody that can actually prove that metaphysics is real. I mean,
The Big Bang
I
just
don't want to
proves
start.
that metaphysics is real. I'll explain it this way. So metaphysics, all that means is beyond physics, right? So take it as quote, natural as you want. Although I think no. I mean, you don't have to use the word spiritual. You can use anything that we all agree that both of us agree here that physics breaks down prior to Planck time in the Big Bang, right? Physics itself breaks down. It does not work anymore. So whatever it is to study what is prior to that, it cannot be physics, is the whole point. You cannot study the English language before the English language exists. Likewise, you cannot study physics on a point prior to physics. So what are you supposed to use if you can't use physics?
Well, what you're basically saying is that, now, in your example of the English language, the English language came around during the early parts of the 5th century. So no, we can't study it. It didn't exist. It wasn't there to look at. There is no meta English. There isn't some other kind of English. There are languages that eventually they were tributaries into how English got developed, and English even improved over time from there. Now,
well, a meta English would be a quote meta English would be just something that's pre-English, so it'd be like Germanic, a Germanic language. That would just be it.
Well, I mean, English for the most part is actually a Latin language that also has Greek.
Well, not for the most part, but that's neither here nor there. Even if you want to say it's mostly Latin, which I would say it's mostly Germanic, the point is that there's something that precedes English. So my question is, since physics breaks down at Planck time, and there is a cause for the Big Bang that is prior to Planck time, what would be the proper discipline, since physics cannot be the discipline?
Well, that is what scientists are working on. What you're saying is you've already named the species. You already believe you already know what it had to be. That's your idea. That's a religious idea. Now, it seems to me like what I'm saying. I
don't see how it's a religious idea. I don't see how it's a religious idea necessarily. I've used just philosophy right here. It's philosophy that I've used. The whole point is that philosophy is my point is that philosophy would be the proper discipline for this. Why do you think philosophy is not the proper discipline for this?
Because philosophy doesn't prove things. Philosophy is an exploration of basically, I would say, the human element, the pursuits of the mind. Given that science is based upon philosophy of science, does that mean that science proves nothing? Science is not based upon philosophy. It's not based upon it. No, it is not.
It is.
That's what you.
The scientific method is a philosophically. Well, nope, I learned that in philosophy class.
I know you did. I just told you that. I just told you that, sir. I told you that you learned it in theology class.
By my atheist. By my atheist philosophy professors. My atheist ones.
Well, I don't know them. I'll have to look that up. But so you think? I mean, to basically say that science is all philosophical would be
it's fundamentally based upon philosophy.
We might as well all become Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Let's just do it that way. But
no. I reject Descartes for a variety of reasons, but I don't see why that's pertinent at all to this.
I didn't think you would, because do you know more than the greatest scientific minds? Are the great scientific minds? Did Stephen Hawking ever talk about the things you're talking about?
You can ask me. You can ask me that on your time for question and answers.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so we got about 2 minutes. No worries. No. I'll probably do that on my own time, on your own time as well. So, and I won't mean to. So again, my question is, why is philosophy not the proper discipline for this? Why is science the proper discipline? And why is it, actually, let me ask this is even more important. You can answer that one obviously as well. But given that you just said that philosophy cannot be the discipline because it doesn't prove anything, science doesn't prove anything, does it? Because science only gives probabilities.
what science does, science works to disprove things. There are no authorities in science. Like you take, for example, the theory of gravity. You know it's not a law. There are laws of gravity. There are 4 laws of gravity. But gravity
But
in
my
itself
standard
is
was
a theory.
just to get really quick, because I think it's getting away, not that you're doing it on purpose. I have about a minute left. You claimed that philosophy cannot be the discipline because philosophy does not prove things. But you're also, it seems, admitting that science does not prove things. So why is science the
No,
discipline?
you messed that up. Let me show you what you did. I said philosophy doesn't prove scientific things. I didn't say philosophy doesn't prove anything. You can talk about something philosophical, and through experimentation.
Is the question of God a scientific
Are you going to
thing?
let me answer you? You're not going to let me answer you, are you? You want to answer? You want to ask another question over a question? You're not letting me. You're not letting me answer.
I am letting you.
Well, when you talk over me, that's called not letting me answer.
That's what the cross examination is. That's how it works. It's to lead.
Oh, so you can cut me off before I answer your question. Well, I'll just answer your question all over again. What was my answer? What was my answer? What was it?
I got distracted by the outburst that you gave. So go ahead, repeat it.
I said that philosophy doesn't prove scientific things. Do you use philosophy to? Do we use philosophy to figure out how chemical compounds go together? Like if
this is the beginning of your this is the beginning of your this is the beginning of your cross examination now. So go ahead and start it again.
Oh, so now it's me asking you. Okay. Well, like I said, I did answer your question about philosophy. I mean, we don't it doesn't fill us. We don't prove things scientifically with scientifically with philosophy. Have you eliminated all? You seem to know the cause of the universe, as to where a lot of people in the scientific community do not know the exact cause of the universe. But you seem to know this, which is extremely interesting. Which is why at the end of this broadcast, if you succeed in what you're doing, I will sign off on your getting a Nobel Prize. Now, have you eliminated all of the possibilities as to how the universe was caused?
Yeah, I'm not interested in trying to address appeal to authority fallacies. So for me, the reason I would say that I hold to God existing is that I cannot see anything even logically possibly being the replacement for it. And that's due to the argument I gave at the very beginning in my opening statement. I can go over it again if you want, but you can.
I thank you for that. That's the right answer. And I didn't interrupt you. What you're saying is it has to be God. This is the same. These are the same fish heads that are served for lunch every single time this argument comes up. Every single time. Nobody has ever been able to prove God with the cosmological argument. There are so many other ones, but now, how would you prove the sun, the existence of the sun to me? The sun in the sky, this big ball of fire that you claim goes across the sky every day. How could you prove that to me?
Well, it depends on what you're questioning about it. What are you questioning about it for clarification?
Its existence. Its existence.
Well, I would point to it. And I would say, how do you explain what that is? What is that if it's not the sun?
So you have evidence, right?
Yeah, I have physical evidence for a physical thing, yes.
Okay. So the cosmological argument that you've presented.
Sure. I haven't presented the cosmological argument.
All right. The argument that you have presented today. That is evidence for God, right? That's evidence.
I would say it's a proof.
It's a proof. So that means nobody can deny it.
Yes.
I think I'm having some power issues here. We got some lightning.
I mean, they can deny it, but they can't deny it logically.
So, my asking you if you have eliminated other possibilities, and you called it what? An argument, appeal to authority? That's not appeal to
No, that
authority.
was not. That's not what I said was the appeal to authority.
Okay, well, I was just a little confused about how you said that. But you still haven't told me that whether or not you have eliminated all of the other possibilities.
Yeah, I said I can't think of a single possibility. I can't think. I cannot conceive of anything even logically possible.
That's not eliminating them. That's not how you
Yeah,
eliminate
that. Of
possibilities. You don't just
course
say,
that
well,
is.
no, you don't just say, I can't think of something. Therefore, it has to be that. No, you have not eliminated all of them. There are 13 different models for the Big Bang Theory. Now,
Yep.
that gets into a wide area of science that we're not here to talk about today. But you're not telling me that you have eliminated all of the possibilities. You haven't.
Give me a
You are
possibility.
okay. Well, what about the 13 different?
You still there? Hello? You still there? Are you still there? Hello? On my side, I'm good. All right. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me at least. I can't hear or see him. Let me pause this also. Hey. All right. You back, Smith? Great. I'm here. Hi. Let me know if you can see me. He might have lost power. That's true. We have a big storm over here also. I will. I paused the time. Um, so yeah, looks like he got stuck. I won't share that, but that's hilarious. I'm glad you can hear me, Joseph. All right, good. Let me see if I can share things on this. Let me see if he's on. All right, lost internet. All right. All right. Well, I apologize for this. There we go. All right, let me see if there is. All right, so I just messaged him. He messaged me, and I messaged him back. I told him to just jump back in when he can. All right. Hey, it's not my fault this time. I'm not the one who lost. I'm not the one who lost the connection on the internet, which is usually how it works. Which is why I'm using the phone right now because my Wi-Fi is really wanky. Let's see. All right, it's sending. The same link should bring me back. I said to him. Oh, I got a text message also. Uh, Ooh, I know somebody there. All right, this person is praying that the internet returns. All right, I'll keep checking to see if the guest thing fills up again. All right. Yeah, it's like thunderstorming over here completely. All right, I'm still looking. Thank you all for sticking with us. I see we have still about 10 people or so. Really appreciate it. Go ahead and bring your questions. Super chats will be prioritized. You know. He said, okay, be about a minute, he said. So we got about a minute. Yep, and I will make sure I'm refraining from giving any sort of stuff on my side on this. By the way, I'm growing my hair out. I don't know if you noticed. Wait, which way is it? That way. I'm going to be growing it back out. We'll see how it works out. Ah, let's see. All right. Let me check again. Oh, he's not there. Kind of annoying. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Add to stage. All right, Scott, can you hear me? Whoops. All right. Whoops. You there?
Yes.
All right. All right. I paused you. I paused you a little bit late, but I think you. I have about 5 minutes left for your cross exam. Is that what you have?
Oh, nice. I hang on here. Let me bring everything back up. Okay,
We got
I
about
wasn't.
5 minutes left here.
Okay, I'll go by your timer. I'm sorry. We had a tree fall down the backyard near the house.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it'd be all right. I'll get the insurance company on that. But so you say I have 5 minutes left.
So your family's all safe and stuff?
Oh, here, everybody's fine. Everybody's fine. Yeah, yeah. My wife let me know. Yeah,
Good. Glad to hear that.
A huge limb or a really big limb the size of a tree came down. But anyway, I guess it's moving through. But yeah, the internet got knocked out there. So yeah, everything's reestablished now.
All right. Glad to hear that. All right. Whenever you want, I'll start it back up. Just take your time to get your bearings and all that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm ready. Well, getting back to kind of what I was talking about was that I'm just not satisfied with you telling me that you've eliminated all the possibilities of how the universe occurred, and I mean to simply say that you can't think of anything else brings it down to personal incredulity. Now, are you able to eliminate all other causes, and you're satisfied with that? All other possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
I cannot. I've not read or seen a single possibility that goes beyond the Big Bang and talks to that about that first act, whatever that first act is. I cannot see anything in which it cannot be willed, or even possibly is not willed. It has to be willed. Is my point.
Okay. So what you're saying is that your personal incredulity is good enough for you. It's good enough for you, right?
No, I'm saying that I'm asking for, given that we're in a debate, I'm asking for, and it's not my time to do this, of course, but on my cross-examination times at least, I'm asking for counter arguments, given that the will is the only thing that even analogously works as far as a first cause is concerned.
Okay. But anyway, so basically from what I'm hearing you tell me is that you are satisfied with God being the cause. So basically, would you say that God is the best explanation for the creation of the universe?
God is the only explanation for the universe. I cannot even think and conceive, and I've tried and I've looked, of any other explanation that actually is consistent logically.
Okay. That's good. That's what I
expected. Or even coherent.
Okay, that's what I expected you to say. What do you think about, I would say, the ad populum argument? Is that a good argument for God?
You'll need to clarify that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Basically, it's been stated, Pew Research and other research councils determined that basically anywhere from 2 to 2.2 billion people believe in the Christian God. You think that's a good argument for God?
No, I don't think that's a good argument for God. I don't believe in using informal or formal fallacies.
Good. I agree with you. So, well, I really don't know what else to ask you. Basically, you've stated that that's your determination, that's your proof of God. How is it proof? How can you go to a third party And additionally, could you go to the scientific community and present your proof of God? I realize you don't know what somebody would or wouldn't say, but what do you think? What do you think people would say to that? Would they be able to examine your proof? I think I lost you there for a minute.
I heard, would they be able to examine? Would they be able to examine? That's all I heard.
Okay, yeah. Well, I hate this weather. It doesn't look much better, but would anybody be able to examine your proof and arrive at the same conclusion that you have arrived at?
Well, yeah, anyone could. Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. In other words,
I'm not sure why scientific community is the pertinent one for this, but yeah.
Well, I don't think you'd have a whole lot of problem with the religious community. I don't think you'd have any problem with your church. I mean, your church at all. I don't think you'd have any problem convincing Christians across the nation that God truly exists. Because
that's not what I said, though.
Okay, so you're just talking about yourself, and so basically it's limited to your believing in God and not actually being anything that anybody else can look at and believe in God because of the same thing.
No, as I said before, the point is that the proper discipline is philosophy, not science. So it would be, to me, it's like going to a bunch of English professors and asking whether or not God exists according to their discipline. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, okay. Well, like I said, this is the same exact argument that I've been hearing for 4 years from people whenever they do engage in this area of argument. And I disagree with you. I don't see any proof there. It's nothing new. It's the same thing. People used to believe. What did people used to believe about thunder and lightning? Like what just happened here a moment ago. What did people used to believe about that a long time ago?
So I'll answer your question, but your time is up. Just to let you know, so that's your last question before the next. Right. So a lot of people believed a lot of different things. If you were to talk to philosophers back in say like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, they would have actually not said like, oh, it's Zeus throwing lightning bolts or things like that. They would actually point to, well, yes, there are subsidiary causes within that chain, but ultimately it all does come from God. Those who obviously believe God exists. All right, so my turn.
Right.
All right. So why, again, is science the proper discipline for the question of whether or not God, who is not physically material, sans creation, or sans the incarnation specifically, why is science the proper one?
Because science is reproducible. We can examine science. We can examine experimentation. We can examine the elements of science. We can look at a chemical composition, for example, and make determinations from it. Science is not a belief system. Science neither requires nor desires faith. Science is not about beliefs. Scientists don't say, well, I believe this is this thing, and that's it. We're done. Cut the lights out and leave. Tomorrow, I believe that this is this. That's it. No need to experiment or look at anything. But with God, for example, God doesn't show any proof of himself.
All right. So given what you just said, which I don't think was an answer to my question, but we'll let this slide for now. Given that, can you explain to me whether or not you believe in cause and effect?
Whether I believe in cause and effect? I think you didn't even listen to what I said. Cause and effect has to do is a scientific, I guess you'd say, a scientific vehicle, more or less, cause and effect. It's not a belief system, okay? It's not about belief. When you make a hypothesis, It is something, it is an educated opinion about various components of science, either one component or multiple components. It's not a belief.
What's the difference between a belief in cause and effect and knowledge of cause and effect?
You know it. The knowledge is what you know. Believe is
Why do you know it?
Because you have examined it. You have observed it. You don't observe beliefs.
How do you? Can you give me a ball of cause and effect? Can you give me an object of cause and effect?
Now you're trying to take cause and effect and make it metaphysical. No, I can't do that because it's not. It is.
Oh no, it is metaphysical. That's my whole point.
That's your opinion. But that is not anything shared in the scientific community. Sorry.
All right. Can you tell me where I can look at cause and effect itself? Cause and effect.
I don't know. Have you ever been inside of a chemistry lab like I have? Have you ever been inside of a lab?
Yeah.
Have you ever done any kind of scientific study? Well, then how in the hell did you not learn about cause and effect?
I'm the one asking questions. So again, I'm asking for cause and effect. I'm not asking for what is being claimed a reaction of a chemical upon another chemical. I'm asking for bare cause and effect itself. Given that you believe that this is a purely scientific thing and all scientific things are just material, I take it you're a materialist. I want you to give me a cause and effect. Just show it to me, a cause and effect itself that is material, that is not a particular instance of cause and effect, but cause and effect itself.
Well, you know what the internet is. Do you know what science is responsible for the internet? The answer is physics. You and I are utilizing cause and effect right now with the internet.
No,
and all
that's not what I'm
asking.
I'm not asking for an instance. I'm not asking for an instance.
You asked me for an example of cause and effect, and I gave you one.
No, you didn't.
Yes,
I did. You're still giving me physical examples that you are claiming are cause and effect.
I am not speaking the way you want me to. I'm not speaking the way you want me to, and I'm not engaging in metaphysics like you want me to.
Yeah, you have to engage in metaphysics.
I have answered your question.
No,
earlier.
You haven't.
No, earlier you told me that you answered the question.
This is my time, sir.
All right, go on ahead.
This is my time, sir. I'm asking again, since you believe in a materialistic universe, I want you to give me, in the same way that I would ask you to give me the number, the concept itself, 1, not a numeral. A numeral is an Arabic numeral, a Roman numeral of 1. That's a representation of a concept. I want you to give me the concept of cause and effect in and of itself. Rip away any particular example of it. I want you to give me cause and effect. What is cause and effect itself? I want you to scientifically prove that to me without just giving a special pleading example that is based in one instance that you are assuming is cause and effect.
Oh, the way your question is cleverly worded. First off, you say that I believe in materialism. Materialism is not a belief. Okay? And basically what you want me to do is you want me to tell you about cause and effect, but keep the science crap out of it. Is that what you're asking me?
No, that's not what I'm asking. So I'll ask it again, just to make sure that you really understand this.
Please do.
Given that you are saying so you are saying materialism is true, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you're committed to materialism, all right? Which means that no non-material things exist. Given that, please give me a material that is itself cause and effect, not an example that you are assuming is cause and effect. Give me the material, the physical substance that is itself cause and effect.
You said, to clarify, you said physical material.
Not an example that you are assuming is cause and effect. I want you to give me.
What is it you want? Do you want me to give you? Do you want me to give you an example of something physical, or do you not want me to give you an example of something physical? Figure out what you want to ask.
I want you to give me something that you're claiming is physical, which is cause and effect itself, not an example that of a ball hitting another ball that you're claiming and assuming is cause and effect. I want you to give me the material itself that is cause and effect.
All right. Since you don't have a problem with science, Take sodium, for example, and mix it with an isotope of chlorine. You get sodium chloride. That's called salt. That's cause and effect. There's your physical example.
No, that's not, because you're still assuming cause and effect in there, and you haven't given me cause and effect.
It's not an assumption, because you can perform that experiment and come out with those results. You can also use a prism.
If I take you to the lottery, and I say, hey, look, I'm going to win the lottery or lose the lottery, either way, and then I do exactly what I predicted, whether it's lose or win, is that proof that necessarily I will always win or that I will always lose?
You won't always do anything. You will either.
Is that
it's two different.
All right.
It's two different things.
All right, awesome. We're getting into this now. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now you're admitting that these principles, these alleged principles that you claim are cause and effect, are actually just sort of things that you are assuming into your scientific system. That's the whole point. You are assuming a cause and effect into. This goes back to Hume. I mean, it goes before Hume, but like Hume himself talks about this, like an atheist. Like he admits that cause and effect is not something that can be proven. So again, I ask you, can you give me an object that itself is cause and effect, a physical object that itself is cause and effect, not an example that you are assuming is cause and effect, but something itself that is cause and effect itself, bare cause and effect, not sodium added, not hydrogen added, not quarks added, cause and effect itself.
What you're basically saying to me is that let's remove anything that's a result of cause and effect and talk about something else that isn't a result or has nothing to do with cause and effect.
Well, I'm trying to point out the fact that what you're doing is that you're actually following a philosophical principle of cause and effect. That's my whole point. And I've taken up a lot of time on this. My whole point is that you are actually following a philosophical assumption that cause and effect is real, that is then applied to science. All right? So with all of this understood, again, my question, well, I'll go to a different question now, because I think we've finally gotten some of that understood. Given that cause and effect is a reality, and that we're talking about cause and effect, the cause of the creation of all of physical matter, of all physical energy, of all time space, how can that cause itself be physical, time space, matter?
Are you just asking the same question all over again? You just want to be metaphysical. You haven't listened to anything I've said. You're not. Are you a science denier? You're a science denier, aren't you?
Nope.
I think you are.
You can ask that. You can ask that again on your turn. So my final question before it goes to your turn is again, can you explain the cause of all of material creation, of all matter, energy, time, space, given that it's the creation of all of it, so it has to be something that is not time, space, not matter, energy?
No, I can't explain all of that. Does that answer your question? Turn now. Okay. Does that answer your question?
That you gave an answer.
Okay, great. Basically, what your whole argument, you try to place it, foundationally on science, and then turn right around and deny everything about science while you're presenting your argument. Why do you do that?
I actually didn't base it on science. I based it on philosophy again, and I'm not denying any science. I haven't. Just for clarification, what science have I denied?
You just denied what cause and effect in the scientific world actually is. You just denied it.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Because when I answered your question, I gave you an example like that, and you said, "Oh no, that's not it." I don't think.
That's an instance. I
don't think you understand
of assumed cause and effect.
How do you describe cause and effect?
So the way I describe cause and effect, philosophically, right? Something that happens, an action, we'll call it an action, happens as the result of a prior action upon it, right? And so Because of that, we have this chain of cause and effect. And going back to my argument, and I can stop here if you want, but I'll continue otherwise. Going back to my argument, my whole point is that if you follow that chain of cause and effect, the very first cause cannot be affected by something previous to it or outside of it. It has to be caused by itself. And the most analogous thing that we can even possibly think of, nothing even comes close other than this, is a self-willed cause. That's the argument in a nutshell.
Amazing. So it has to be willed. You somehow have determined that. How did you determine that? Or is that what your answer was all about? I mean, you were able to determine self-willing.
Because the very definition of self-willing versus not self-willing is that it is causing the action itself, right? So it can't be because the only other option would be that something else is causing the action upon it, right? So if it's another thing that is causing that action, well, then we're just putting another domino on that list. We're just adding another domino. We're not solving any answer at all. So wherever you want to put the first domino, you have to ask, why did that first domino fall? And the answer that I'm giving is that the only thing that even possibly does anything even approaching an answer is that the first action is self-willed.
Okay. You have completely galvanized your argument to what you consider to be a fact that all causes have to be willed by an intelligent agent, or am I wrong about that? Is it an intelligent agent always responsible for causing things?
Not necessarily directly, no.
Then that goes against your argument. That goes against your argument.
No, it doesn't.
Because if an intelligent agent is not involved in causing things, you just said that everything has to be willed by something. It has to be willed.
Nope.
You said self-will.
Not what I said.
Yes, it is what you said.
I talked about the first action.
Over again and see exactly what you said. You're saying that everything has to be the first domino has to be knocked. Somebody's finger has to knock over the first domino, right? Somebody.
You can use that analogy. Yeah, well, something willed, yes. The first action has to be self-willed. I didn't say every action has to be self-willed. I said the first action has to be self-willed.
Okay, all right. My next question. What are some actions that do not have to be willed?
Directly?
Yes, what you just stated. I'm going by what you just said a second ago.
I mean, yeah, you could talk about like rocks falling and things like that. They don't have to be directly willed.
Right.
Meteors crashing into each other, all that sort of stuff. They don't have to be directly willed.
Right. Like as a asteroid goes through space, it's going through space, and it collides with another asteroid. Well, yeah, nobody said, all right, I want you to go here, you hit each other and blow up. Right. That's kind of what
I'm saying. I'm not committing myself to that given I'm saying that I'm not committing myself to that given the parameters of this debate.
Okay. So basically now you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying that all causes are self-willed, and then there are causes that are not willed.
That's not what I said.
That's what you're saying.
I said that that's not at all what I said. What I said is I am limiting myself to the parameters of this debate. I'm trying to keep us on topic. And my point is that what I am defending is that, yes, not necessarily, that we don't necessarily have to assume that every action is directly willed.
Okay. Could the cause of the universe not be willed?
The cause of the first action has to be self-willed, whether it's this universe or a multi-universe or universes prior, whatever that first action is, has to be self-willed.
Has to be. Are you able to compare this universe to other universes?
There are definitely many models that philosophers and physicists have tried to do, yeah.
But can you compare?
There's oscillating universes, like the Big Bang, Big Crunch things, all that sort of stuff, multiverses, yeah.
Can you compare them?
You can compare them on paper, yeah.
Oh, on paper. I mean, I know that you can't fly out into space and go to another universe. How do you get to? How do you know about that other universe? How do you know about it?
Oh, you don't. You
Oh,
don't.
okay. So we can compare two universes, one of which we don't know anything about. And we don't even know where it's at, where to find it, how to look at it, or whether it's even there or not. But we can still compare two universes, right? I can compare this ink
We can
pen
compare.
with another ink pen, but I have no other ink pen here to compare it to. But I know there's a bunch
You
of other
can.
ink
You can.
pens.
Yeah, yeah. Physicists do this all the time. Yeah.
Oh, you study physics
That's what
regularly.
that's what models. That's what Big Bang models, for instance, are. That's what
Mm-hmm.
alternate, hypothetical and theoretical universes are. That's how
Okay.
it works. For instance, the oscillating universe, where you've got the universe going into a series of Big Bang, Big Crunch, Big Bang, Big Crunch. That is an
Mm-hmm.
hypothesis on what the universe could be, or might not at all be.
Are you confusing universes with galaxies? We
No,
can look at other galaxies.
I know that.
Right, like we can look at the
Andromeda
Andromeda
is one of my
galaxy.
favorites.
Yeah, of course. Everybody's
One of my
favorite.
favorites.
Yeah. But I don't see where you or anyone has ever looked at another universe. Now, oscillating universe, when I read Stephen Hawking's book, A Brief Moment of Time, um,
Hmm.
you've read Stephen Hawking, right?
I've read a bit of him. I've not read A Brief Moment in Time.
Okay. Um, it's funny what you talked about. Oh, it's interesting. I'll give you that. It's interesting. He never talked about it. He talks about string theory, or he talked about string theory. It's too bad that he died when he did. I wish he was still here. Um, and string theory is not really accepted by everybody in the theoretical physics community. At least at this particular time. And but he never talked about the things you're talking about. And I just don't see how you can compare this universe to another universe that you can't even look at. Like, what if we had a new car, for example, and say, okay, let's compare this car to this other car. Well, where is it? Well, I don't know. Well, what's it look like? I don't know. Is it new? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. But let's make a comparison. That's pretty simple.
So yeah,
That's a question of what I'm trying to ask. So I'm just saying. I mean,
yeah, I'm not sure why
you're not sure why I'm bringing that
how
up.
do you what? Yeah, I'm not sure why you're bringing this up, given that I gave something that physicists all do.
Physicists
Like
do,
the whole
but
point of physics, not the whole point. Yeah, physicists actually make models of other possible universes. I don't even know how this is any sort of rebuttal to anything I'm saying, honestly.
no, I mean you're right.
You
I
like
know. I know they
this is
make
basic
models.
algebra. Like this is you learn this in algebra. You say, well, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what this number is, so I'm going to put a placeholder for it, and I'm going to try to find out what it is by negation of other things,
Yeah, that's
by looking
in,
in simple. That is
in most
essentially what's being done in physics, and that's what's being done in
in most
philosophy. That's
cases,
what's being done in every discipline does this.
So you're solving for x,
Yes.
right? Because that's kind of what a quadratic equation is, and so basically, what we have from you is that it has to be God. And how
I
does
haven't
that
seen
prove?
any other.
Mhm.
Yeah, you haven't given me a reason to believe that it can be unwilled or self-willed.
Okay.
You haven't
What
given
if
me a
it?
reason to believe that it can.
Okay. What if? Let me ask you this: is it possible that the universe was created by intergalactic space pixies?
This is the last question, by the way. Is it possible that the universe was created by intergalactic space pixies? No,
Mm-hmm.
because unless you're talking about a universe prior to this universe from which they live, because an intergalactic thing would be still within this universe. So something within this universe cannot create the
Mm-hmm.
something that is made in this universe cannot create the universe in which it is. That's
Oh,
like giving birth to yourself. It's just not possible.
so you know that for certain. You know that there's no way in the world
Yeah, it's logically
that
impossible. It's
right.
logically impossible to self birth yourself. Yeah, to give.
Well, I didn't
Right.
say that. I didn't say that. So
I'm speaking in the sort of the universal sense. Yes. All right. So
okay.
that's the end of yours. All right. So we will do our closing. You get to go first, and I will then follow.
All right. Interesting. Out of all the arguments that I've heard, I really expected you to cover a lot of other areas, but I mean, I would wonder why, and I realize you could answer these if you wanted to later on. There were other arguments. Like I said, first off, the Kalam cosmological argument, which is the argument that you used, even though you didn't name it that way. That's still what it is. It's basically saying, you basically said that it has to be, someone who caused. In that argument, God is not even really listed in your premises, but God gets basically smuggled in through a back door. And God gets to sit in the chair and all of a sudden become the cause. There is no proof of that. There is no evidence of that. To basically say that it has to be your God of choice. Now, you didn't necessarily say that. You didn't say that. You said it has to be something that's like a God. Muslims use the same exact kind of argument for proving God, their God. I could create a religion tomorrow that says that my God created everything, and I know it for certain. And I could use your argument to prove my God. There have been thousands of gods. There have been lots of gods before that people earnestly and honestly believed in. They believed in them. And no one could really tell them that those gods didn't exist. A lot of those gods are on the shelf today. And you and I both are not worried about them. We're not worried about Zoroaster. We're not worried about Mithras. We're not worried about Zalmoxis. We're not worried about Lord Krishna, even though they may dance around us. His people may dance around us at an airport. We don't care about those gods. But you care about your God. And I understand that. That's fine. And I also got to credit you. A lot of ministers will not do what you were doing. So let me give you some kudos on that. Okay? Lots of ministers will totally freeze up and check out when it comes to basically being asked to prove God. They're used to people listening to them who do not ask anything back. But you're doing a lot better than them. To basically say that God could be proven philosophically, I liken that to two philosophers arguing back and forth with each other, and basically whoever uses the most $50 words wins. But then it still doesn't prove anything. You can't philosophically prove God. People will try to say that I can theologically prove God. That's like saying you can mythologically prove God. No one has proven God. You haven't proven God today. You haven't. You have told me, you've proven to me your beliefs. I could have told you that. You've proven to me that what you consider proof is good enough for you. It's fine for you. A long time ago, what you just said would have been good enough for me. It would have been. But I have to ask myself, what am I actually looking at? I'm looking at someone's idea. I'm looking at someone's thoughts. I'm looking at someone's conclusion that has been drawn from a presupposition. If I would have presented any other kind of God cause to you, you would have dismissed it immediately. You would have said, no, that can't possibly be right. You're not showing me any evidence. And you would be right about that. But all I can say to you is that I didn't see any proof of God tonight. I haven't seen anything any different than what I have seen before within this same little neighborhood of this argument here. There's a lot of things, of course, maybe we can talk about in the future one day. I do like talking with you, by the way. I do get animated, but that's what it's all about. That's what debates are all about. So I like talking with you. I'm glad that you present a well thought out plan of action. I like that you take a look at things. I guess I don't like the fact that you ignore some reasonable things that I brought up and trying to wrap minutia around something and try to cover up exactly what you're asking me with something else, saying, show me an ink pen, but show me an ink pen that's invisible, not this one. It's akin to that. Now, those are some of my little basic little ways of putting stuff. But I hope we can talk about a lot of other things in the future. The thing about evil, why God doesn't do things. There's a lot of things that I won't be able to get to tonight because that's outside of the context of our debate right now. But I'm sorry. This argument is an old hat. And that's my time, eh?
All right. Yeah, okay. That's right. Right at the time. Right. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you all for coming here. And thank you, Scott, very much for the lively debate. I really appreciate that. And I share the sentiment. I want to do future discussions and debates with you. And looking forward to any that we do. All right. So to review what I had said and what I had argued, every single action that happens as a result of a cause before it. That cause happens as a cause before. There's the whole chain, right? Action happens as a reaction to everything else. We're going backwards on that, looking at the first cause, the first action that has ever happened. And that first action itself, there are three answers that someone could give. Either well, really two. But either that action was caused by something previous to it, which then it's no longer the first action, which makes it no longer what we're talking about, right? Or it happened uncaused for no reason whatsoever. It just happened and was not caused, which destroys. It's literally worse than magic, because at least with magic you have the bunny being pulled out of the hat. The hat exists. But to just say something uncaused happens for no reason whatsoever is just incoherent. Or the first action that happens is a self-caused action. What I have presented is that there are no alternatives for the self-caused action other than, there are no alternatives. It is just the self-willed action. And basically my challenge tonight was to give any conceivable one that is not a self-willed cause. You could call it Buddha. You could call it, Buddha is not their God, but anyway, you can call it Muhammad. I know, but like, I'm giving silly answers, right? You can call it whatever you want. But my point being that regardless of what you name the thing, if you don't even like to call it God, right? The first action has to be a self-caused, self-willed action, right? So I'm asking, and what I asked for tonight was any alternative, anything that is even logically possible. The closest I ever got to that was, well, there are 13 models that explain the Big Bang. That doesn't actually answer the question, because models explaining the Big Bang do not amount to a sufficient cause in and of itself, right? Because if each and every single one of those is a mechanistic, deterministic explanation, then you have to explain what caused that mechanistic, deterministic, complex series of actions or action or whatever. So my whole point, again, is that however you try to explain it, it has to be the first cause, the first action has to be a self-willed action. And so that was not defeated in my estimation. I'll let the audience decide whether or not they believe that is the case. So I have about a minute and 50 seconds left. So what I'll say is, yes, I am still not convinced of any possible answer that could be given because I've not seen any that were presented tonight, and I've not seen any reason to believe that I should doubt, even in any way, that the first action has to be a self-willed action. I was hoping to see that, but I did not see that at all tonight. That would be the thing that would defeat my argument that I gave tonight, and then I would have to concede. If there was an even possible answer, then we could at least start with that, and nothing was given. And so I have about a minute left, and I will go ahead and finish with that. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and go to the, let me reset this all. Let's go ahead and go to the questions that we have. Yeah. All right.
Okay, great.
This is from Kevin, and if you guys could make sure that you sort of give an indication of who it's for. We'll both go for it, I guess, too. Then I guess I'll have you go for it first, if you don't mind. I think it's more geared towards you. If time and matter came into existence at the Big Bang, what sort of thing would be able to bring the universe into existence?
Well, again, you mentioned a minute ago, I mentioned to you, 13 different models of the Big Bang Theory. And there's we've come very far in learning a lot of things about like the event horizons of black holes, for example. And that's where they've determined physics breaks down inside of a black hole. Kind of basic astrophysics cosmology there. But our friend here asks what sort of thing would be able to bring the universe into existence. Well, that is exactly what cosmologists and astrophysicists are working on. And again, the nuance I see here, the person may not mean this. The person named Kevin may not mean this. But the nuance I see here is that if you cannot give me an answer right now, then I'm going to go with this answer over here, what you call an answer. What you said was proof, which is really no more proof than anything else, because there's nothing there that we can examine. I don't want to get off topic here, but your beliefs. I mean, the way you determined the answer to your argument is something that could be done by sitting in a chair. Scientists don't do that. They are involved in experimentation, and I can't even tell you what all an astrophysicist and cosmologist does every day. I think asking this question to someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, would be a very good idea. And I would love to hear what he has to say. And I'm sure he's been asked this before, but I'd have to ask, how often does anyone in the religious world consult with people, scientific things that are of a scientific nature? How often do they consult with people within the scientific community about the things that they are involved with? It's just like if you had a medical question, you wouldn't ask me, you'd ask a doctor.
All right, we'll try to limit these to a minute after this one, just to keep things going. No, that's fine.
Sure. No,
I should have said it beforehand.
No problem.
Yeah. So my answer to this is, the thing that causes all of time, space, I should say, and matter energy to exist has to itself be non-materialistic in those categories at the very least. And so we have to suppose a metaphysical, beyond physics, something outside of physics answer. So it has to be something that is beyond physics. And I do find it interesting, just to comment a little bit on what was just given, that apparently, Scott, not to be disrespectful, but you're apparently not familiar with just how often these conversations happen between atheists and theists on questions of science and on physics.
No, I've seen that specifically,
and on philosophy and etc.
But that wasn't what I wasn't answering. I wasn't answering to that. What you just said, I wasn't answering to that.
Okay.
Sam.
All right. We'll get to Anglican aesthetics in a second, but Kevin has another one, and because Anglican aesthetics is a little bit long, so we'll get to this one. Mm-hmm. This one looks like it's towards you. It might be mostly towards you. I apologize. What came into existence at the Big Bang? I've been told that space, time, and matter. If that is true, wouldn't that mean that whatever initiated the Big Bang is spaceless, timeless, and non-material? It's more or less the same question. So basically, I think he's asking if you could just narrow it, like what could it be? I guess.
Well, okay, let me read it to me. Okay, what came into existence at the Big Bang? I've been told it's space, time, and matter. It's space, time, and matter. If that is true, that would mean that whatever initiated the Big Bang is spaceless, timeless, and non-material. Not necessarily. I've never heard anybody in the scientific community say that, but I don't know what everybody in the scientific community has said. I'm not a scientist. And basically what this is kind of the argument that something came from nothing that I hear a lot. And also the word non-material, the L's missing, but the word non-material is that would mean nothing. That would mean nothing. There is no proof of nothing. I could say there's nothing in the air right now. Yes, there is. There's air. There's oxygen. There's nitrogen. It's there. I can't say there's nothing here. Where can we go and find nothing? Nowhere that I know of. And who cares whether I know it or not? But to say there's nothing, this is a common trope. So no, there's no such thing as nothing.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so I'll give my answer. So yeah,
Please
the
do.
thing that is yeah, the thing that is logically prior to Planck time in the Big Bang has to be non-physical, because we're talking about the Big Bang being the cause of all of the literal physical material universe. So if it is the cause of the entire physical material universe, it cannot itself be a result of that. It has to be something that is prior to that. So yes, that's it. All right, next one. All right, this is the Anglican aesthetics one. It's directed towards you. Key one, proposition one: an intelligible order is a sign of an intelligence which imprinted that order. Proposition two. Whoops, I can't read it now. Proposition two: the cosmos is marked by an intelligible order. C: the cosmos is marked by a sign of an originating intelligence. And whenever you start, I will clock down.
Okay, I'm trying to see if it's a question or a declaration. Looks kind of like a declaration.
Yeah, he's asking if you find any flaws in that. That's the presumption.
Any flaws?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I didn't hear. Okay, you're asking, do I find any flaws in that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just some sound jumbling up with me here. Yeah. In a word, yes. This right here is this is the intelligent design argument that has been given a brand new suit, and it looks great. So basically what we're trying to say is that we look at the universe and we see intelligent design. No, we don't. We don't necessarily we don't see that. Someone can say that, like you've said some things tonight that you think have to be the answer. Okay, I can understand that. Is there an order? An explosion? Things that have exploded in space, is that order? Are sunspots order? Is that intelligent order? Asteroids crashing into other planets. Hopefully not ours, but meteors crash on Earth all the time. Actually, around the clock. Doesn't have to be at night. So no, I say yes, I do see a lot of flaws there.
Yeah, no, I don't see a flaw with the logic, so we'll move
I
on.
didn't think you would. I could have told you that too.
Kevin, what denomination did you preach in? Just curious.
Oh, it was the Pentecostal church. It would be known as the Church of God. Which,
All
if
right.
you want me to explain,
I
if
didn't
you
know
want me to
that.
explain a little bit more, if it just so everybody knows,
I know Church of God. I know Church of God
Yeah,
pretty well.
you
So
know
you
about-
can
yeah,
you can talk about it. It's probably a fun.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
you've been in seminary, so it's Pentecostal, the belief in, of course, I mean, of course, the Trinity, but really most Christian religions believe in the Trinity. But Pentecostals believe in a deeper involvement because of a certain kind of awakening about what they consider the person of the Holy Spirit. In other words, such as being baptized in the Holy Spirit, things like that. And people hear about that and wonder what that is. But yeah, that was a denomination that I was in. Then later we moved into a different church that was kind of a faith healing ministry. And they're still kind of hanging on today, but it was actually it was a TV preacher. Most people wouldn't know anything about him today, but it was really from a long time ago. But anyway, so it was Pentecostal as well. But I started out in the Baptist church, so I have been in the Baptist church. I know that you've been in the Baptist church originally.
Yeah, I grew up Baptist, and
Yeah.
then while I was questioning things, I decided, first philosophically to look into things, and then from there looked into theology, church history, biblical,
Mm-hmm.
biblical studies, etc., and
We'll
became
follow.
Anglican. All right.
Yeah.
So actually, Anglican aesthetics has it's a continuation of. I think it helps give some more elucidation here. I didn't see these others. All right.
Okay.
He's giving an example with the one prior he gave. AI has an intelligible order insofar as it
Mm-hmm.
has a set of principles, code, governing how it develops. In defense of P1, his first proposition, we instantly recognize board games as originating in an intelligence from the fact that it has an order extending over its domain, governing the courses of development within that domain. Natural laws are principles which govern a domain's development. So the argument would take the pairing often noted between order and intelligence by sign theory, taking order as a sign signifying an originating intelligence as part of its essence. Thoughts? And I can give some explanations for that if you
Excellent.
need any clarifications. And I'll give the
Okay. So
original argument
basically,
right here.
okay. So let's see. That's the original. Okay. Now, can you show me the question? The new one, the new question, the first part of the new question.
Oh, the first part? Okay.
Yeah,
AI has
of
an
the new question
intelligible
that he
order.
just. Okay, so this
Well,
is
it's not.
this
It's
question.
an elucidation. Yeah.
Okay, this question is about artificial intelligence. Is that right?
No, he's giving an example of artificial intelligence. He's also giving another example of board games, as we don't need to know who created it to know that it was created by a whom.
He, our friend is exactly right. This here is the watchmaker argument with a new suit as well. Boy, suits are flying off the rack. When we find a watch on the beach, we know that the watch didn't grow out of a tree. We know that it didn't just the sand didn't create it. We know that somebody created the watch, and it was a watchmaker. It wouldn't have been me because I don't know how to make a watch, but a watchmaker does. So that's how we know, and we don't even know the name. The watchmaker could have died 200 years ago, and we don't know that. We don't know who the watchmaker was. So that's kind of what this is. Yeah, we look at artificial intelligence. Of course, it has an order to it. It took a long time to develop that. It was developed by science, by the way. And we can look at a board game. Now, a board game is not so much scientific, although someone could probably make an argument for it. But yeah, we can see that a board game was developed by a person because we can actually examine these two things. We can examine them, and we can examine the universe. But when someone proposes that there is an intelligence behind it, that's not even a postulate. That's just simply someone making a very basic hypothesis. Well, okay, they need to test that as a hypothesis. It's okay. It needs to be tested. There has to be research, experimentation has to be done in order to bring that to the point of being a theory. I hope I answered that. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so I would say that I agree, obviously, with Anglican aesthetics. He's a good friend of mine, and I would actually say that yes, we have the reality that there's literally, for instance, DNA code within our there's code within our DNA, right?
Oh,
It's an actual language, right?
Here we go. Oh, that's another show right there.
I did not interrupt. I did not interrupt you, so please. So, as an example, DNA within or the code within our DNA, right? And there's literal intelligence, like literal intelligibility given what's there, right? So there is order. And the question is not, the question we shouldn't be asking is, there are instances that seem to be disorder. Therefore, we can ignore the order.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't make sense because in a board game, for instance, you have things that seem to be disorder, right? For a board game, I love board games. I got like a dozen right there and a dozen back here behind me.
Mm-hmm.
You have things that seem disorder, that seem random, right? And are in a mundane sense random. That doesn't mean that therefore there is no creator of the board game. So yeah, and that's all I'm going to say on that part.
I agree with you on the board game.
All right, here's one for me. Original Wind Productions. Father James, are you asking whether or not Scott can prove cause and effect without appealing to something we can see? Is constant conjunction? No. So what I was asking initially prior
Mhm.
is, given the materialism, the materialist commitment that Scott has espoused,
Mhm.
I would like to see cause and effect sans anything other than cause and effect, right? Just cause and effect itself. Given materialism is true in his worldview, I would like to just see a pile of just cause and effect. That was what I was asking for. You can give a response if you want. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that. Um, I would like to see a bucket full of ideas. Can you show me a bucket full of ideas? Not
That's
written
just
on
proving my
paper.
point. Exactly.
Not written on paper. Okay, well, I'm glad it is. Not written on paper. Just pour ideas into a bucket. No, that would be silly. What it is that what the bucket I just presented to you, that was your argument. Now, ideas, however, there could be a book of ideas. When you read a book, I have a book about inventions, like a lot of inventions when they first were invented, when the telephone was invented, when other interesting industrial things were invented, and that's a kind of a book of ideas. There, we go, wow, okay, it's in a book, but it's not. The ideas themselves are not poured into a bucket. But you can't say there's no such thing as an idea, and you can't say that ideas do not amount to something, and you cannot say that ideas do not eventually have a product if they are good enough. An idea can be stupid and not go anywhere and not produce anything. But there's a lot of great ideas. We are the beneficiaries of great ideas. And we are enjoying these ideas right now. So what you were wanting was, I don't know, some kind of a quasi-material ball of something and call it cause and effect. All you did was just totally confuse the issue about what cause and effect is. Because you can't accept, I don't think, you can't accept the actual content of cause and effect. You can't accept that because you look for things that torpedo your arguments and you have to reshape them. I'm done.
All right. Let's see. I do want to answer that, but I'll respect the rules that we've set.
Mm-hmm. We can get to it one day.
Hasn't quantum entanglement proved that prayer communication is possible and instant? So I will answer that. I don't see how it could or would prove that. Quantum entanglement proves that instant communication can happen. Well, what we're presuming is instant communication. Mm-hmm. Well, it's instant, whatever it is, and it appears to be some sort of communication. I'll say that. So it might be a denial of the objectivity of local space, right? It might be, it's all sorts of different things. And a quantum entanglement can, there's like a dozen different sort of hypotheses in which it can go. So I don't see how it would relate to prayer, especially since we would understand prayer being directed to God as God being immaterial. Sans the incarnation, of course, but immaterial, because prayer happened prior to the incarnation. So, if you want to say anything.
Okay, well, I agree with what you said for the most part. Quantum entanglement, one of the luminary discoveries of Albert Einstein. We get into a lot of, we get into quantum mechanics, things like that, about how far apart can two electrons be and still maintain some kind of like, I guess for lack of better words, like a line of communication. And entanglement theory is just that. They were able to prove, they were able to bring it to the status of being a theory, but certainly not done yet. Quantum mechanics still has a long way to go, and scientists are actually very excited about that. They like it. Now, does it prove prayer? Well, no. Prayer is speaking words into the air and hoping that someone or something mystical will hear it and act accordingly.
All right. Was that? Oh yeah, I already answered for that one.
Okay, yeah.
Apologetics from the attic. Question for Scott: what scientific evidence would you have to see to become a theist? Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready. I would have to see that God. I would have to see God would have to present Himself. The all-powerful God that Christians speak about would be powerful enough to know exactly what to do to prove Himself to me personally. And however, for our friend here, our good friend, Apologetics from the Attic, again, appreciate the question. Pro tip: there's a fatal flaw in your question. Whenever you say when you basically say to somebody, what kind of evidence would you have to see in order to believe in God, then you're basically saying that there is no clear evidence that you can present. You're trying to think, what could I show you to get you to believe in God? You're not proving God. Because you'd have to provide evidence that proves God. And you don't seem to have that. So you have to ask me the question.
All right. So for me, I don't think scientific. I'm never impressed with the claim of like scientific evidence for or against the existence of God, because the reality is that the question of whether or not God exists is a philosophical question. It is not now there are good scientific arguments for the existence of God. I won't deny that. My point being that I think that it works best in the realm of philosophy. That's the proper category for this. It's the proper discipline for this. And so I prefer doing it within philosophy. Now I'm decently versed in some of the scientific stuff. It's interesting. I am a sci-fi guy, so I love stuff like quantum entanglement and such.
too.
But yeah, and that'll be it for mine. All right, next one. Question for Scott: is your brain intelligently designed to come to metaphysical truths, like objective moral truths, when evolution selects for survivability rather than for the pursuit of metaphysical truths?
What kind of question is this? Is my brain intelligently designed to come to metaphysical truths? What are metaphysical truths? Now he says like objective moral truths. That's not metaphysical. We learn about morality through reasoning, observation. Morality has always been something that is productive for humankind. It's not counterproductive. It's productive. Most people will say that morality comes from the Bible. We didn't know anything about morality until we had the Bible, until we had the law given and all that. Although Moses in the Bible was told by an Egyptian that it was wrong for him to kill a servant like he did. Moses already knew that killing was wrong. Everybody there already knew it. And then it will be many years later before Moses gets the 10 Commandments from God up on Mount Sinai. And everyone says that's the beginning of it, but I don't really see what is being asked here. It's like three different questions together, I don't know, glued together for some reason.
All right. I'll answer. Oh, wait, there. Okay. So the whole point is that your everyone's brains, according to atheism, presumably, is everyone's brains evolved, but we don't evolve our brains for the pursuit of truth, other than the pursuit of truth insofar as it helps us survive, helps us to procreate. Primarily, that's the big one: procreation and survival, as well, food, shelter, etc. So the whole point being that how do you come to metaphysical truths other than them just being a sort of practical, helpful thing? So it's practical to help the older people because you can gain wisdom from them. So it's not something that is objectively true. It's just helpful. So then it doesn't make sense to, for instance, keep the weak and sick, because they're just going to make things more difficult. So why not just kill them off on an evolutionary basis? So that's one example.
Well, that's because it's
All right.
not it's not our call to do
Wait,
it.
I didn't answer. I didn't answer.
Yeah, I know you don't want to hear
I
anything
didn't give
because
a rebuttal.
it'll mess up your argument.
No, no. I'm trying to keep things fair. I didn't give a rebuttal when I could have.
Okay.
So I'm asking that you
All right.
respect the same time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Question for Scott. Who cares which God Father James proves when the existence of anyone falsifies atheism?
All right. Who cares which God you prove when the existence of anyone falsifies atheism? No, atheism isn't falsified by a person's existence. If you want to falsify atheism, then you actually prove that there is a God. You prove it. And once you prove it, how can anyone be an atheist? Do we have any anti-sun people? People that do not believe in the sun? When I asked you earlier, question concerning the sun, what did you say? I've got evidence of the sun. Yeah, you know that. But you have to manufacture evidence for God, which is what you did. Now, you did it with other people's help. And there was obviously a remarkable amount of influence over you while you were being schooled in this arena, I'll call it. But no, a person's existence doesn't falsify atheism. I don't see how anybody can say that. The existence of God, the proven existence of God, is the only thing that could do it. So far, that hasn't happened.
So before I get to mine, I think it's important to point out. I think you misunderstood his question.
Maybe I did.
Yeah. Who cares which God I prove when the existence of any God falsifies atheism? That's the idea.
Okay, the question says the existence of anyone. Do you see that?
Yeah, his whole point being that any God.
Well, that changes everything.
The existence of any God. All right, yeah, I'll give you another minute if you want.
Great, because now it's a different question. The question is, who cares which God you prove when the existence of any God falsifies atheism? Well, that's what I just said. I said you prove God. Prove the existence of God, that'll falsify atheism. But what I was assuming is that the God you're talking about is the God of the Bible, of the Holy Bible. So if I made reference to that, that was the reason why. If you can prove the existence of a God, then you falsify atheism. If I can prove the existence of the sun, I can falsify any argument that an anti-sun person presents. We try that with flat earthers, but it doesn't seem to work because they don't want to hear facts. And a lot of times in religion, there's a lot of people, they don't want to hear facts either.
All right. Sorry, I gave you a shorter
now you get to
warning.
Answer on that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I agree. So, let's say we find a board game on the far side of Pluto. The first travelers there go to Pluto and they find a board game there. Monopoly. I might say, well, these are Pluto. Yeah. Oh, I hate it. No, but like a board game we've never seen before, but it's obviously a board game, right?
Right.
I might say, well, I think it's the Plutonians, the ancient Plutonian people that we haven't discovered yet, but must have been native to this planet, right? And then you're the other astronaut, and you say, no, it couldn't be because there's no way that life could have evolved out of Pluto, given the circumstances and all sorts. And we argue back and forth, right? Now, one of us is right that it was life originating from Pluto, or it wasn't, right? Those are the only two options, right? But either of us being right doesn't prove or doesn't then disprove the claim that these were created by some sort of intelligent species. That's kind of the whole point.
I agree.
A particular type doesn't matter. It's the question of whether or not the proof is that some intelligent species did it. Right. For Scott, without using an example as your answer, what is cause and effect? And can science prove the essence of cause and effect? This is going back to what I was saying before. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I've already answered that, and appreciate the father's question there in a way. I would want to. I don't want to answer a question with a question. I want to know what essence is. I heard somebody try to define essence one time in a debate I was watching, and the person just kept saying, "Well, the essence is just the essence." Never could really get a definition on essence. But I would just
Do
say
you need me
this.
to give that answer?
You give me my time still?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Please do.
Yeah. I'll pause it right now. Yeah. Yeah. So when we're talking about the essence, we're talking about what is required for that thing to be there, and only what is required for that thing to be that thing.
Okay. Without it being
what is
yeah.
what's required, not things that are accidental to it that just so happen. So an instantiation of cause and effect would include the accidental aspects. So we're asking what is necessary for cause and effect. What is the essential part of that? Or what are the essential parts of cause and effect? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. So you got about 30 seconds left.
Okay. Well, basically, this was answered with one of my examples, and science proves cause and effect all the time with experimentation, with actual components that we can actually examine, review. There's peer reviews of experimentation. Others engage in the same exact experiments. So science proves it all the time. And if a person doesn't know about science, they won't understand it.
All right. So let me reset for mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it goes back to what I'm saying before, is that, in fact, going back to what you had said before about the ideas thing, is that, yes, thoughts, ideas are immaterial. Cause and effect is immaterial. These are all immaterial things, right? Well, effect, I guess you could say. Would
the
be,
actual thing of it.
But the whole point is that I'm proving by example that materialism is false. That's my whole point. I think that is what Father Graff's point is that materialism is false, because materialism cannot account for the concept of cause and effect itself. Cause and effect itself cannot be proven as anything, as a principle, as a law, or anything. It cannot be done so on a purely materialistic world view. All right, and that is the end of my time. Whoops, let's pause that. There we go. All right. Crossville Engineering is asking, regardless of what Scott gives as a potential evidence he would accept, why would he not always just appeal to a potential natural cause or hallucination?
Regardless of what I give as potential evidence for what, and why would I not
for God existing?
Appeal? Well, for God existing, why would he not just appeal to a potential natural cause or an hallucination? Why would I want to appeal to some kind of a hallucination?
I haven't started your time yet. Do you mind if I'm going to clarify, because I think I know where he's getting at. I haven't started your time.
Okay, please do.
I think his point is that, going back to what you had said earlier with, maybe if God came down and said to me something or whatever kind of thing. I think he's saying, well, why wouldn't you not just put that as a natural cause or some sort of hallucination?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. Okay. In other words, like with what the Apostle Paul talked about 3 different times in the book of Acts about meeting Jesus in a very, I guess, immaterial way. Well, it's like this. Is there anything else that we look at that's an hallucination? What if you have a strange dream? You had a strange dream. You look and while you were having the dream, you thought the dream was real. You thought these things were really happening. You wake up, you realize, no, it wasn't happening. None of those things happened. I didn't build a go-kart with my former landlord. No, I didn't do that. That didn't happen. If something is a natural cause, something natural happened, well, then it would be natural and I would see it. Either way, I would see it. You see, this denial of materialism, which means you obviously think that absolutely everything is not material at all. Maybe you don't think that, but you're trying to basically say that you're trying to stay married to immaterialism so badly that you can't stand a material answer. You don't like it. because it doesn't line up with your religious beliefs, your presuppositions that you've already made for yourself.
All right. And I'll give my response. All right. So for me, my whole point with this is that
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Whoops. Let me start my time. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I believe God exists fundamentally is on an intellectual level. I am convinced that logically it is impossible for God not to exist. Given what one of the arguments, one of the many arguments there are, the one I
Right.
just presented in this debate. So, like the question is, for me, if I were to say be visited by someone claiming to be God, even if there was a sort of, light surrounding the person and the person was floating and
Mm-hmm.
people stopped moving and all that sort of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would not at all be convinced that that's God. I would have to have something much stronger and much deeper than some sort of apparently supernatural thing to believe that
Mm-hmm.
that is God. That would not at all even slightly convince me. I would have to have something much stronger than that to believe that that is God Himself.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so we'll do like a few more. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
Oh,
well, if is that all right with you? Like to say about two or three more.
sure. No, but at least like that.
I'm not sure how many there are left anyway. I don't see too many more. All right, let's go. This might be the last one. I don't see really any. I'm kind of going through them as quickly as
Mm-hmm.
possible. Um, let's see both these. All right. Okay, so go ahead. Where is the observable evidence of abiogenesis? Whenever you're ready.
That is a hefty subject. Um, I I don't have I don't I'm not able to answer that. I'm not an expert in that area. Now, if that goes as a win for the other team, then I guess it's kind of a cheap home run because I don't know all about that. And basically, what it would end up underscoring is that if you can't answer me, then I'm going to believe in magic instead. And the person asking it may even think that abiogenesis is magic. They may even think that. But like I said, that's a heavier subject. And I would say to that person, I appreciate the question, but I would say to them, it's real easy to research this. It's real easy. And you can research it from different sources. And if you only want to hear about it from a religious perspective, then that's all you're going to get is religion. You're not going to get anything scientific. So I would go to the scientific community on that.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I keep hitting that. So abiogenesis, if we're talking about it in a
Mm-hmm.
purely natural, and I hate the terms natural and supernatural. I think they're just very loaded. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll say mundane, in the mundane sense, where there is a possibility of atheism, I would say that yeah, there's nothing even close to approaching an answer for abiogenesis.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even get on paper anything close to the first organism, not even on paper. As in, we can't even theorize
Mm-hmm.
a creature that is the first creature from the soup and I'm using these sort of jokingly, but soup and lightning and all that fun stuff, right? We
Primordial
can't even
soup,
get to that
yes.
on paper. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So I will say though that if we're talking about a biogenesis as the idea of life coming from non-life, well, in the derivative sense, of course, we would believe that even if you're a six-day creationist, all the way to a theistic evolutionist, you believe that life does arise from non-life. We would just say that
Mm-hmm.
God is the ultimate cause behind whatever that process is, whether it's the dust to Adam or the dust to the first celled organism. Um, I think this person might want to take us both on a date or something right here. Henry Ruth. Both of these young men are beautiful and responsible gentlemen, and I'd love to know where they first met. We met online through Facebook. I think that was it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
You want to
I'm
say
already
anything to that?
I'm already married. I don't know if Anglican priests can marry or not.
I am allowed to be married. I am not currently married.
Okay,
I've
well,
not
there
ever been
you.
married.
She's all yours, or they're all yours. Whoever.
Well, I don't know if it's Henry's a he. I'm not. I'm
I know.
not
I don't
looking
see
at.
pronouns, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter
All
either
right.
way.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much. It looks like it's it.
Okay.
Again, Scott Smith, thank you. Your upcoming YouTube channel is X plus Y, correct?
Yes. Yes.
X plus
Hope.
Y.
Yes.
All
Hope
right.
to hope to launch that in the
And
future.
all right. And thank you all very much. I hope you have a good
Mhm.
evening and God bless.
If you say so.